I love debating anything with evolutionary theory. I think it's fascinating. It does explain a lot of behaviors, but also not in a lot of things, because if you take into account like socio-cultural and socio-psychological movements, there are a lot of changes. Like we don't live the same as people live, 5,000 years ago. So it's not always going to be the truth for
I think
everybody.
it was safety, right? So if traditionally, or if you like hunter-gatherers, the man's job was to provide a certain amount and also protection. Women also provided, which no one talks about because we were gathering, and that's a lot of calories too. But I think if you have a man who isn't showing up for you in that way, like he's not helping you with the bills, or he's not helping you with the groceries, or he doesn't make you feel seen or safe, that safety thing is so fundamental to women's sexuality. If it's not there, it is a no-fly zone, to the point where they did this study and they tried to use it as an example as to why women don't like sex. And we certainly don't like casual sex. Is they went on a campus and they asked all of these young ladies, would you have sex with this random guy that's a 10? And almost all of them said no. So like, see, women don't like casual sex. Well, there's an error in this study. So they redid the study and they picked a guy that they found attractive that they knew and trusted. And then immediately flipped on its head, and almost all of the women said yes. So yes, they do like casual sex, but it's on the condition that it is safe. And if that safety element's not there, you're just not open for shop. So that safety looks different in modernity than it did back in the caveman era. So you have to ask yourself, if she's really cold and distant, it's like, how can I make her feel more seen and safe? And watch her warm up.
100%. Every action is a reaction. So if she's cold and distant, there's probably something that you're doing that is also, sparking that. Or maybe there's something within the relationship that she doesn't feel safe enough to talk about. So I think ultimately, especially what you're saying in terms of safety, I find it really interesting that people use that about casual sex, because sometimes people feel even more safe with their casual sex partners than some people who have been married in an abusive relationship for 20 years. Like time doesn't always mean something. Like time is just a factor. And yes, at least half of it is true. Like at least half of it, like, yes, you do know each other better after being together 5-10 years. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that the quality of the relationship and quality of sex and quality of safety is better just because you've been together for so long. Some people rate their safety so low after being together for 10 years. Why? Because you don't have the kind of communication and trust in the relationship. And yeah, when people are like, I know better, like especially in the comments, like the trolls, when I'm like, oh, what do you know? Like, you're so young. What do you know? Like, I've been with my wife for 30 years. I'm like, yeah, is she orgasming or not? Because probably not.
Because that can be faked really well.
Yeah, exactly. Just because you've been together like with someone for 30 years means nothing to me.
Oh, I think the other thing too, this is an evolutionary biology thing as well. They say that the reason the tipping point is 5 years typically is normally that would produce a child. And if you don't have a child within that time frame, then you automatically start to get this averse response to your partner, because you would have assumed that they were sick or there was something wrong with them or they were infertile. And then that would be a really big problem back in the day. So that if you don't have kids by 5 years in, that relationship is probably going to end.
It is a very interesting theory, but at the same time, I think, modern life is so different. Like, number one, there are people that choose not to have children, and that's their prerogative. Number two, there are people who literally consider their pets as their real children, as like comparable. And you can tell me how you feel about that, but as comparable to
I hate those
children.
People.
Fur babies, like the fur.
Yeah,
some people also.
You can love it to death, and I love that. I love animals. I usually more than people, but it is a different thing. It is a very different, and I would even use the word sacred thing. It's just very different.
Didn't there was like a famous designer that died and left everything to his cat. Do you remember? I think it's was it Versace? I don't know. There was a famous,
I think you're right. It was
a famous
Versace or like a
designer,
Dolce or something.
that died and left everything to his cat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I do think though that safety means a lot because before being married to my current husband, in my 20s I was married before, and to me that was totally, a trial marriage because I got into it really fast due to the fact that I was dating based on, you know checking the box, like based on paper, like, is he kind? Yes. Is he, does he have a great job? Yes. Is he tall? Yes. Is he handsome? Yes. Like, we didn't have sexual chemistry, but it was fine because I didn't care about it back then. I just cared about all the other things on paper. But at the same time, because he has all those things, but sexually, I didn't feel safe to like show myself, to like basically show my quote unquote whole self. Like, I have my whole self in bed, right? Like, I am one of those, what is it called? I saw a t-shirt thing the other day. Lady in the street, hentai in the sheets. And like, I do have a wild side and get wild, but he wasn't someone like that. And so I never felt comfortable being like a hoe in bed with him. And maybe, that was my fault for not communicating. And back then I didn't have the capacity to be the person that I am today. But yeah, it wasn't, we never really had amazing connecting sex due to the fact that I didn't feel safe that way. Because safe doesn't always mean like physically safe, because I was physically safe, right? Like, this is a very kind, gentle person. But at the same time, I didn't feel like emotionally safe to show my true self in bed. But now with my husband, like, because we talk about sex all the time and we talk about really deep, really dark, like sexual fantasies. So I feel accepted in every way. And therefore in bed, like, I just do whatever. And sometimes we do like embarrassing things in bed too. Like, sometimes whenever I queef, I still laugh so much. I'm like, oh my God, where did the air come from? And it always sounds like fart. And I'm like, I swear I did not fart. Although if I farted, it shouldn't be a problem. But with him, it just feels so safe.